Today I'm going to show you most of the stock crafts in the SimplePlanes 2 demo. Now I say most of them because many stock crafts haven't been added, and of course all of these stock crafts are subject to changes in design or performance or anything like that. So this might not be exactly what's packaged with the game, and I might have to update this video in the future, but let's get straight into it. First up we have the adder. As you can probably tell, the adder is based on the F-16, and an adder is another type of viper snake, so that's probably where the F-16 viper part comes from and why it's called adder. The adder has a really nice detailed interior. It has 3 MFDs and lots of different switches for landing gear, altitude hold, arresting gear for if you're landing on a carrier, and the drag chute on the back, which is especially useful for when you're landing on the very short runways of Driftwood Island. On the outside, the F-16 has lots of nice decals and a really nice texture, and if you actually look closely you can see some like gritty texture on all of the wings and surfaces. It has 6 missiles, 2 are IR missiles and 4 are radar guided missiles, and it of course comes with flares. I think it has a really good flight model. It also comes with the new afterburning engine, as you can see here. It has the exact same air brake style as the F-16 does, and yeah, this is absolutely my favorite aircraft stock craft in the stock craft so far. Next up we have our first car. This is the Bugger. This little car gives off so many cool vibes with the really nice colourful texture it's got on it. This thing is the ultimate off-roading buggy. It uses the new wheels and suspension system and takes full advantage of that to get over really rough terrain, and it just cruises through these small bumps in the terrain. It is super fun to drive across the beach because it will just destroy any bump that's there and completely ignore it compared to some of the other cars. It also just is insanely easy to control. Like, it's hard to explain, but you cannot spin out easily in this thing, which is really nice. It has a very nice and simple interior, and it just looks great on the outside from every angle as well. I highly recommend just driving this out on the dunes and the big bumps because it is so much fun. I'm being serious. I'm going to do the next 2 craft in sequence because they are somewhat related. First up we have the Super Wasp. The Super Wasp is obviously an upgrade on the Wasp. I wonder where I've heard that name before. And it is of course based on the FA-18 Super Hornet. On the inside you get access to 3 MFDs, multiple different dials that are in the center of the cockpit, which is very nice for situational awareness when you're in a dogfight, trim lever, gear lever, weapon jettison, a tail hook switch, and of course a wing fold, which is for the carrier operations. You also get these really neat target selection buttons and countermeasure if you're fighting in only first person. On the outside is the beautifully textured fuselage, supporting a nice navy camouflage with a really nice skull on the wings. You get 4 air-to-ground missiles. They kind of look like harpoons to me, which would make a lot of sense. You get a targeting pod, and you get 6 missiles, 4 being IR and 2 being active radar. This thing is incredibly fun to fly around. It has a very good flight profile, especially for dogfighting, and yeah, I think this is a really well done upgrade. Next up is the Stormvark, which is the aircraft that I grouped together with the Super Wasp because they both operate from the same carrier as far as I can tell. I believe the Stormvark is based on the F-111B, which was a carrier version of the F-111 which eventually got replaced with the F-14. Being a 2-seater, this thing has a lot of stuff on the dashboard. You get 4 MFDs, loads of dials. For the weapon system operator, you of course get the weapon release and targeting buttons. You get a auto wing sweep switch as well as a lever for it, which will let you manually sweep the wings. There's a nose stowage button for carrier operations, and of course the typical landing gear and flaps. On the outside you get a very similar look to the Simple Wasp, and I really love it. It of course has the really nice shark looking camo as well as the skull and crossbones. You get 2 targeting pods, 4 laser guided bombs for those targeting pods, 2 IR missiles, and 5 Anzu missiles, which are the active radar missiles. There's actually 3 of these hidden in the bottom of the aircraft in a weapons bay, which is really cool. As for flight performance, this thing is pretty good at most speeds because of the variable geometry wing, which will sweep back and change the flight performance depending on the speed you're going. I think it was a great idea to add a counterpart to the Super Wasp to go on the carrier, so we're not just flying one aircraft and there's multiple of the same style. I really like that idea. And this thing is very multi-role, so it's going to do pretty well, I'd say. And next we have the first helicopter. This is the Bumblebee. The Bumblebee is based on the BO-105, which is essentially used as a stunt helicopter, and especially by Red Bull of course. And thus in game it is very agile and quite sensitive on the controls. On the interior you have control over both engines, as well as the lights and the doors of the helicopter. It even has a small cargo door at the back, which you can also access from the inside of the helicopter using the switch. 2 MFDs and various other controls, and on the outside you can see it's painted in the beautiful Vatusa police scheme, which I think is really cool thematically. And as I said, for the flight performance, it is very, very agile. You can do flips, you can do spins, you can do everything you can imagine. It is very, very agile. Next up, we have the Cork. The Cork is a charming little car based off some of the old Locust racing cars. I don't think it's based off any design in particular, since there's a few different ones that all look pretty similar, but it looks like a proper track car, and it really does work as a proper track car. It has a big engine sticking out the back. It controls really well on the roads and absolutely terribly off the roads. So yep, absolutely for the track and the roads. It has a very simple dashboard with only a single dial, but that really fits the style of vehicle that this is. And there's not much else to say about it other than it drives really well on the track, and it's really fun to race with if you have some other people in the same car. Next up, we have the Jerboa, which is one of my favorite stock crafts in the entire game right now. It's a helicopter based on the Gazelle, which I could almost immediately identify, and this thing is great. The inside has a single MFD, and it has a lever on the top of the helicopter. This allows you to manipulate the VTOL slider, and it really reminds me of the fuel cutoff levers on the MIA. You can also open the doors of the helicopter. You just look behind you and look at the handles. You can open them and it will open the doors. You can also do this from the outside. There's also a gun sight on the heads-up display, which I really like. It's very well done. And that's for one of the weapon systems, which is the autocannon on the right side of the helicopter. On the left side of the helicopter are two air-to-air missiles. And this is one of my favorite things about this helicopter, is just the way it's armed. It is so fun to fly in combat and just so fun to fly in general. It is by far the smoothest helicopter in the stock crafts, in my opinion. And as a Gazelle, it's super small. You can fit into tiny gaps, and it is just really fun to fly. Like, it's so smooth. It lands smooth. It's really good. In SimplePlanes 2, Kicking Fish gets a massive upgrade. Completely rebuilt from the ground up, it uses all new SimplePlanes 2 parts such as the flaps and the MFD, and it looks insanely good. Inside the cockpit, you get a very nice dashboard with lots of different dials, an MFD, levers for your trim, canopy button, and the drop tank. On the outside, you get the all new procedural engine with the really nice afterburning plume, and a completely new look with the new textures and decals, and it just looks amazing. This thing is the ultimate stunt plane. It goes incredibly fast and is insanely maneuverable. In fact, so maneuverable, I am surprised Chad is even solid right now. But yeah, they made a really good job of this thing. It is very sleek looking. Next up, we have the Racoon, which is based on the AH-64 Apache. It specifically looks like the longbow variant because it has the radar on the top. The Racoon is a very versatile attack helicopter featuring both rockets and a gun which you can swivel around. In the pilot seat, you get two MFDs, of course the controls such as the throttle and the collective, a light button, as well as a auto hover, which is a very nice feature for an attack helicopter, obviously. And in the gunner seat, you get a much larger middle MFD and two smaller outside MFDs. You also get the same controls as the pilot for the autopilot and controlling the helicopter, just in case, you know, the pilot seat somehow gets destroyed. On the front of the helicopter is a targeting pod. You can use this to look around and designate targets for the rockets as well as the gun, and the gun will swivel and fire at those targets. And as long as the target is far enough away, you can also hit the target with the rockets, which will guide towards the laser target, which is super nice. As for the flight characteristics, naturally it's not as good as the Bumblebee or the Jerboa, but of course most of the time you're going to be using the auto hover, so you can focus on aiming at those targets through the targeting pod and using the rockets on them. Overall, a very nice attack helicopter, and it's pretty cool. Next up, we have a very nice car. This is the RS-86 Majuro. The RS-86 is based on the RX-7 FD, and we're going to head straight on into the interior because it is very impressive on the inside. There are so many controls in here. We have hazard lights, the actual lights, indicators, and I have no idea how they managed to display this on the dash, but it is super cool. We can even make the windows come up and down. You can of course open the doors from the inside. There's even a glove box you can open, and inside this glove box are divorce papers and a job application, so you know, yep. I guess that's what you get for getting one of these cars. And on the outside, this thing looks absolutely beautiful, especially when you've got the headlights up. It is wonderful. I also really like the license plate. It has like the little mountains of Vatusa on it. It's very cool. As for driving this thing, it seems very drifty when you go fast, which is very in person for this kind of car, it seems like. But as long as you're going a pretty reasonable speed, this thing is very fun to drive just out on the roads, and it will control perfectly fine when you're out on the roads and driving at a reasonable speed. Anything above that and you will start to drift, and yeah, it can get crazy. But yeah, this is a very wonderful car. I love the look of it. Next up we have the Sandfrog, which is another car. This thing is based off various rally cars, and this thing is super fun to drive. It's an absolute off-roading beast, and it goes crazy on the dirt roads and on the jumps as well. You can probably tell that just by the absolutely enormous suspension it has on the back, and I guess Frog is a really good name for this kind of thing based on that. On the inside there's a very nice carbon fiber look. On the dash you have a single MFD and various different switches for the action groups. I think these switches really fit the style. With these switches you can open the doors and do various other things. And as I said, for driving, this thing is super fun off-road. There's a specific race challenge that is on all dirt roads, and it is absolutely great at that because it can just drift around the corners like they're nothing. It also has a gyroscope or something in it so that when you do a jump you won't just spin out, and that really helps it do crazy jumps. Next is the Simpleze. The Simpleze is based on the Very Easy, which was built by the same guy that actually built the Spaceship One, which is just insane to me. It's a light one-person propeller aircraft in quite an interesting pusher configuration. Inside the aircraft we have an MFD, a bunch of dials, and a stick for trim and a stick for the landing gear, which only the front one can come up. It's a very fun little thing to fly around, and you can even try and land this on the roadways because it's just that small and light. This is another very welcome addition to the roster. Next up we have the Whistler, which is based on the legendary F4U Corsair, and I love this thing. Inside the cockpit we have a very detailed dash with lots of different dials with levers for the flaps, the tail hook, and of course the landing gear, and you also have a few buttons for various action groups and weapon systems. There's also a very nice gun sight, which I really like. On the outside you have the very authentic looking Corsair with some decals on it. It looks absolutely great. You have rockets and bombs on the pylons and a few wing mounted 50 cals. This thing is also fitted with some really nice flaps from the new flap system. They look really great when you have them fully down. And as it goes for the flight performance, this thing flies very agile as you would expect for a World War II fighter, and it's just very fun to fly. I'm sure once we get the carriers in, this thing will be super fun to land on the carriers. And next up we have the Competitor. The Competitor is a small jet-powered airliner. I'm not exactly sure what it's based on, but if I figure out I will put a picture on the screen. On the inside you get a two-seater cockpit. You have a few dials in the center console and on the outsides, various levers for flaps and landing gear on the middle, two MFDs, as well as the four blue screening screens you can see on the front. There's actually more to the inside of an actual interior with various seats, some complimentary military documents, and a sink and toilet in the back. On the outside is a very sleek and simplistic look. I really like the little blue bits on the back of the tail there. It looks really great. And as you'd expect for something of this size, it's actually very nimble. You do need some help from the flaps to take off, but after that it flies really great. Next up we have the Stinker, which honestly, for having a name like that, I feel kind of bad for this little guy. I think he looks great. The Stinker is a small red biplane, and I really love this thing. If we go into the interior, the cockpit is absolutely amazing. On the wooden themed dashboard we have many different dials, and I really like the look of this. It just really fits this style of plane. You have a switch to lock the tail wheel so it doesn't turn, a switch for the lights on the wingtips, a canopy lever, and a rotor stop lever. On the outside you have this beautifully designed biplane. I really love how the wing blends in the middle. It looks so good, and as you'd probably imagine for a biplane, this thing is very maneuverable. If you're better than me, you can probably do some stunts and even fly through these gaps. I'm sure it'll fit. This is one of my favorite planes to fly in first person just because of how nice the cockpit is. They did a really nice design job on this. So that's going to do it for all of the stock crafts so far. Of course there's going to be more coming in the future potentially, and these stock crafts that I've shown off will possibly even be changed in performance or other ways, so just keep that in mind when you watch this video. I really love the quality of these stock crafts. They're all very high quality and they all feel like stock crafts, if you get what I mean. It's really good. So as always, I'd like to thank our members Pedro, Carnasa, Adam Cat, and Sean Plays Too Much for supporting the channel as always, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.